Next in line, we have a session which is a case study presentation on digital transformation. And I would like to introduce you all to Mr. Kartik Nagarajan, Managing Director, Global Business Services, Sales and Consulting from Nexdigm. With over 2 decades of experience, Kartik is responsible for operations and related services for business consulting, supply chain and intelligent automation and accelerated analytics practices. With rich and diverse experience from his leadership roles with organizations like HCL, WNS, Aviva, Avaya and WPP, Kartik has a wealth of knowledge and experience. He has successfully built and managed global captives and shared services operations, accelerated revenue, and delivered ROI to stakeholders. On this note, please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible? Yeah, okay, thank you. So basically, I'm here to present and talk about 2 different case studies. And for many, many years, this topic has been spoken about. So this is not a forward thinking, this is a reconfirmation of the demand and the need that still date exists, right? So, and I do apologize because when I look at the booths, when I look at the audience, we're moving forward, which is very good. So I don't intend to bring you back to 1990, but this demand still exists. So that's the case study we're talking about today. So therefore, I have a question, right, in a show of hands. So how many of you and your organization believe that you are 100% digitized? How many of you believe that you are 100% digitized, paperless, you don't see any paper anywhere in your organization? Nobody. Okay, let's bring the bar down, 50%. So thanks for the reconfirmation. That's the first case study all about, right? The case study is about digitization of business processes, right? It's a very, very simple, yet very effective case that I want to present. It actually started with one of our clients. They are a EPC, they do a lot of projects in GCC countries. A very, very tough project because in extreme weather conditions, they have 60% of the blue-collar workers who go and set it up as a project. They set up the plant, they set up the machinery, they get the job done. In 12 to 15 months, they vacate and they, one more project starts. So with that kind of a organization, obviously the first legacy is about to be over, right? Last 30 years, the founder himself and the CEO and the C-1, they kind of into the age bracket of 55 to 60 to say, Kartik, I want to leave a legacy, yet be competitive, yet be forward thinking, right? So they are, I would say, the top 5 across GCC for the work they do. And when I talk about the scale, look at the scale. They are 10K plus employees spanning across 5 countries, 160 plus business activities, and a lot of remote locations, right? They don't have a direct control because of the work they do. So in terms of the thought, one of the things they said, look, one, we want you to set up a captive shared services for us because we want to optimize, we want to leverage, and we want to have a critical but not so pressing needs in the shared services office so that we can focus on M&As, we can focus on bagging more business, we can focus on the next level of delivery. The second thing is, but from a legacy standpoint of view, I don't want to see paper because their business is into heavily loaded of contracts, papers, vendors, and when you go into the office, you get a feeling that you actually come to LIC office, not now, I'm saying 20 years back, right? It's like lumps of files and this and that. So they said, look, is there a way that you can do it? And naturally, the entire process started. We did a business case for them. We presented to the board. The first thing then I realized is, as much as basic this sounds, enterprise-wide 100% digitization, I thought it could happen in 6 months. It took 18 months. Second, budgeting point, right? The founder and the CEO, they believed this could be a very low-intensive, easy budget, and we can just do it like this. And as we kept on looking at the numbers, we did a discovery workshop. We did a deep inside case studies in terms of which our department needs the first and the latter, et cetera, et cetera. We realized this is much deeper than what we thought it could be, right? And not only for that organization, for the kind of show of hands tells me, right? None of us are today can say that we are 100% paperless, et cetera, for a reason. And reasons are many, right? So that's when this became a case study for them, and it actually took my time. I had to do a lot of travel to understand what are some of the challenges they will face. Objective is very clear, right? Objective is leave a legacy, ease of working, and they want to scale, right? They are into a lot of M&A activities. They want to be the #1 position in the GCC country. Today, they're #5. They want to climb to #1. All these other things that you already know, right? In terms of efficiency, compliance, controls are far better, right? Today, let's say an auditor comes for, let's say, an yearly audit, right? A stat auditor comes. How easy for us to just give the data and say, okay, here is your data. Don't, bother me. Just get on with it. It doesn't never happen, right? You have to spend 2 to 3 weeks to, get the data in order, give it to the auditor, then F&A question starts, and. So all these things are a possibility for that organization when we started as a process. 5 challenges came, right? Number 1, as I started the budget, that why should somebody put even an extra dollar or dirham or rupee into this kind of project? What are they going to get, right? I would rather better off putting this number into expanding a sales team, better off acquiring a company. Why am I doing this in the first place? So that's when we gave into the deep study to say, if you don't do this, you cannot scale up. If you don't do this, actually you're out of the market, right? We did explain this to our customer to say, if you want to even stay relevant, this is the first thing you have to do. So that's the first issue. Second is the change management, right? The average size of the employees or the tenure was somewhere between 10 to 15 years with the organization. They're very people-centric. They don't want to, any employee across level to go beyond them, right? So it's like a family. You just have to imagine. 10,000 odd people family. So they know literally everything about an employee end to end. To get those guys convinced to say paperless is the way for the future, there are a lot of things that we have to do. We have to do a workshop. We have to set up a help desk to say, and in the first phase, even the small things, small queries became a big issue to say, this is the reason I told you it's not going to happen, therefore let's not do it, right? So the help desk came in as a good solution point for us to go reach out to them, get the buy-in, etc. So that became a very big challenge, but we are well prepared for dealing with the change management. Third, in terms of data privacy, while data privacy, DPDPA Act is being talked about in India, and I'm sure this year it will come into faction. This is my view. There, based on the competition also, there are ethical hacking that happened. This company was not impacted, but some of their competitors were impacted, right? In terms of somebody wanted to check to say, can I retrieve your data? And they were able to do it, right? They were able to prove it to the client to say, look, so with all the paperless change, their scare point is, if I migrate into this, what happens to my data? Because today it is in files, right? Lumps and lumps of files. You can't even take a photocopy of that, even if you want to. But you are asking me to put a digital version of it, which means I am giving it in a piece of paper to a hacker. So what's going to happen to that? So naturally, we had an entire data privacy mode set up for them as a part of the solution. Then the other point is they have so many application systems. So, and the one system won't talk to another, right? That's been a common issue for companies which are growing. The companies which are grown through especially M&A, they have multiple ERPs, they have multiple vendor portals, blah, blah, blah. So we have to create a lot of APIs. The connectors between the one application to another is what we finally did. Naturally, we also engaged with some of the vendors. The one key observation that we had while we did all this journey is the management backing, the board backing was extremely critical because the purpose has to be very clear. Because if the backing is not there, after 2 quarters, the same management can turn back and say, 6 months, what have we done? I've already invested $500,000. Where are we? But if the purpose is clear to say, I want to leave a legacy, I want to be competitive, I want to stay relevant, then the question is very different. What is that you need from me to get it done? Where are we? And these two are very different state of questions that we would like to be questioned, right? Therefore, this is some of the approach that we followed, very, very common. But like I said, the effectiveness of this will actually give you either you're successful or not. And this is what we ended up doing, right? As a phase 1. We created 70 plus workflows. We involved 500 plus users. And the phase 1, from a success point of view, you would not believe me, that entire zone was 100% paperless. Because the management backed it, the board backed it, and to say, I will not let this happen. I'm not going to sign a piece of paper. That's where they started with. So mantra was, don't come to me with a piece of paper, I will not sign it. You lose a project, you lose. Anything can happen, but I'm not going to do it. I think that actually gave us a lot of confidence to go extra mile to say, okay, let's do it for the customer. Because even in our office, we are somewhere between 70 to 80% paperless. We are also not 100. But it gives a very proud, genuine feeling to say, look, this is the customers that have been able to do it. And naturally, the other part that we also support them in the project management, change management, which is part of things, right? Because you have to sell the benefit to every employee. You have to enable and empower them to use it and solve the problems. Because the problem will come, right? I mean, it's not that you're giving a brand new car with a key and it runs, right? You have to take them through the change. And these are the impacts, right? I mean, today, an average employee believes that the work can be done much faster, a lot of transparency in the information, efficiency from a time perspective. A person who used to put 18 hours, and these are the offices, trust me, people put 18 hours for days and years and decades. That 18 hours come down to 12 now, already. Right? So they're also feeling, okay, I got 6 more hours, what am I going to do now? Right? Because their life is only office, remind, right? And yeah, as a matter of fact, they kind of recommended us to the GSA UK, and we were nominated as part of the finalists in 2023 for this project. That's the kind of impact it had. So I'll take a pause. Any question, any comments before we move to the next one? Okay, Vikram, if you're there in the crowd, show of hand. Anything you'd like to add? Vikram's the head of analytics. Vikram, why don't you stand and just, because he was the one who delivered the project, anything you'd like to add, just shout out. Your mics?
Thanks, Kartik. Is that audible? Yeah. So the beauty of this project was, it touched all the functions of the organization, 12 functions and so many users. So driving that change across functions is something which, made the success. I think rest things you have covered, Kartik.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the next one, and again, the basic question. So I'm just touching upon the basic projects here. I kept telling, right? We moved forward in our thinking and on generative AI and beyond, and I'm bringing you back to some basics, but this is equally relevant for everybody, right? Analytics COE. So this basically is a case study that we've kind of worked with one of our clients, which is a Fortune 500 med device company. Their aspiration was to grow 5x in the next 3 years from a revenue perspective. And there is a lot of data flowing anywhere, and distribution model is very different, right, in terms of sell model. So you don't reach the customer directly. You go through your salesperson, the salesperson talks to a distributor sells to the hospitals, hospital sells to the end customer. So there's a 4-layer of selling scheme here, right? So you just don't directly sell. So which means, how do you actually control the outcome? How do you ensure that the hospitals are going to sell your product, right? The run-of-the-mill ideas are, I will run a marketing campaign, I'll give you an incentive, but so can your competitors also, right? They can easily copy-paste. What's the big deal? You can take X%, that person can beat the number. So how do you get the competitive edge? That is when this entire problem was brought to us to say, guys, what do you think we should do? I said, look, the first and foremost, you don't have your data in place, right? You don't even know which hospital is actually pushing how many of your products and what is the end thing. You might have some view about some Excel sheets, which is where the entire orchestration of Center of Excellence analytics setup was happened. So this happened way back in 2020. There are 4 or 5 pillars, and our understanding was from a setting up of data management engine or some reporting, they were there. But when I asked them basic questions, okay, tell me the last 3 years, hindsight, right? It's not even predictive. Which is your favorite distributor and why? So they had a vague answer. They didn't know what to do with it. So I said, look, there's a big problem with the data that you're managing for whatever reason, right? And that's when I came with the idea to say, we have to set up a center of excellence for data analytics for you. What does that mean? That means these components, right? The first and foremost is thought leadership. What does the leader want to do with the data, right? If I'm the CEO of India or I'm the CEO of APAC, the first thing is I want to use this data and know where can I increase my market share. I want to use this data and say, how can I increase my profitability? I want to use this data and say, where am I leaking my money? Because most of the marketing campaigns, I mean, it runs into crores, but you really don't know what is the outcome of the campaign. Exactly, right? Similarly, supply chain, right? Do you exactly know which mode of transportation will give you the maximum returns or maximum savings? So there is an optimum supply chain, right? So those are some of the things that he was not even aware. So that starts with the thought leadership. Second one, obviously, it gives you insights in terms of the consulting. So what we did was, we had a vision of creating the COE on 3 counts. One, we need a SME to talk with the department leaders. And by the way, this was a CIO-driven initiative, even the digitization and the data analytics. That's why I'm bringing to this forum, right? It's very relevant for you. So CIO of India said, I want to create this as a brainchild for this client. And he said, can you help us? So our help was A, driving the 5-year roadmap in terms of what are we going to achieve. Second, representing the CIO and talking to the department leaders and understanding what are the problems that the data can solve. Bring it back to the CIO to say, these are the problems, and let's start attacking one by one. And also getting the single version of truth, because there are multiple sources of information lying, right? There's a vendor portal, there's an ERP, there is a customer information, there's an employee information. How do you get all this into one single version of truth to make some actionable insights? So these are some of the things we did for the client. This is how it amalgamates, right? If you look at the people, our contribution of people was, instead of him investing in data analysts, data visualizers, data scientists, we were the ones who did it on behalf of our client with an actionable outcome. So the outcome was, we said we first target the sales department. We were going to increase the sales percentage by X that we agreed. We will block the leakage by Y. And then we went to supply chain. And then we went to marketing. Then we went to HR. So we covered a lot of departments on behalf of clients. And that is when the entire COE in the last 4 years has been a huge success. We started with India. Then we attacked Singapore, Japan, Australia. So that's the kind of road path the COE has. For this client, this has been a very good mixture. Because if we expect the CIO to hire a team of data analytics and hire a team of consulting, convince the department, and finally get into actionables, it's never going to happen, right? I mean, there are many other things the CIO would do, right? This is not the prima facie job of CIO. The other part the normal CIOs would do is to say, you know what, I buy the latest technologies and put it to use for everybody, they'll figure it out. And trust me, when you check the adoption of the technology, it is not even 10%. You buy anything. You buy Power BI, you buy Tableau, and you feel happy to say, I bought 150 licenses. 150 people use Power BI, and then ask them, what do you do with Power BI? The answers will shock you, right? So you got 2 more minutes? Thank you. So that's when there is a role for somebody to work with the CIO to create this impact. Now, these are the impacts we created, right? 30+ successful projects in 5 years, multi-region, multi-function support. And that gave the organization a lot of confidence in the CIO to say, this guy is a strategist. He's not a doer. He's not waiting for the CEO to tell me what to do. See, that's another point of scaling and judging a CIO here, right? I mean, does he have a vision for the organization in terms of data and how to ensure that this aligns with the organization goals? And very simple goals could be, how do you get visibility to take some decisions on profitability, on market share, revenue, right? These are 3 things that matters to every CEO, I'm assuming, right? That's what this guy did. And therefore, there are 2 key takeaways when I had a long chat, and I think I just met him last week, to say what are 2 things he did differently. One, he said, Kartik, we have to empower instead of enable. And the example that we talked about is, I could buy the most expensive aeroplane, but I cannot expect my department leaders to fly the aeroplane, right? They are part of the passenger. So my job is to fly it for them. And that's where they need to say, I will empower. Enabling is not going to work. And he gave this example because he said, first I bought 150 licenses. They have deep pockets, but people didn't use it. And some who used, they don't know how to use it. Some who also thought about how to solve that problem, right? The second is the consulting the doctor. And this is a problem that we all have, right? And we all have, from an example, I'll say, let's say this week one of us catches a fever. And we say, okay, I'll take a crocin, big deal. And we prolong the illness for 1 more week. Till it comes to a point to say, oh, by the way, I'm not able to solve it. I might as well consult the doctor. Same problem this gentleman had to say, I don't think so I'll be able to create the analytics team and do the consulting and do the COE model. I need some intermittent help, right, for 1 to 2 to 3 years, so that that partner can elevate my position, and then I can run with this, right? Then I can come to self-help model. So that's what I meant by consult the doctor. So consult the doctor, get yourself cued, And I wish you all well, because most of you and all of you actually are in such critical position for your respective organization that if you use data to a next level, your organization will benefit, you have a career elevation, and actually there is a name to reckon with. So thank you so much. Thanks for hearing me out. Really, really appreciate it. And would more than be happy to hear comments, questions, anything that I can say now, or my colleague Vikram can answer, bring it on. Do you have a couple of minutes for question answer if somebody has a question?
We can take a one or two questions.
Okay.
Do we have any questions for them?
Any questions at all? Yeah, please, sir. Can you give the mic, please? She'll give.
Hi, I'm Rajesh from Inox. Insightful journey, which function in the whole value chain you find it more difficult and how you tackle it?
See, the most difficult, I thought, was supply chain.
Supply chain.
Yeah, very, very difficult, because supply chain has got a nuances, especially after COVID. Before COVID, supply chain had a strategy to say cost first, right? Quality second, right? Or quality first, cost second. Time to deliver is taken for granted. To say you will end up meeting the targets. After COVID, the big question is, what if this reoccurs? Will I be able to get the product to the customer in time? So that changed the strategy to say, instead of the cheapest source in some part of the world, this cheapest source with the quality has to be within the vicinity. So that changed the entire equation. So that changed their strategy, it changed our strategy also. So we had to actually go to a drawing board, understand their business, and then try to help it out.
And last question, like the
Yeah,
journey,
please.
the planned period and the actual execution, the time difference was exactly the same, or there was some ups and downs? The planning cycle, say
There
you
will
have planned 2 years.
I can guarantee there will be ups and downs.
Correct.
Right? So if somebody says, my plan and execution, there is minimalistic gap, either they are God or they're lying. Cannot happen. Right? When you plan, right, you plan for the information that you have. You plan with the most optimistic scenario. Right? But when rubber hits the road is when you realize. And the challenge could be, like I said, business model changes. People don't want to even invest time on this. They say, oh, it's of no use to me. I already know this information. Why should I get into analytics? Right? That's you have to sell. Because they said, Kartik, I'm in this business for 20 years. Are you going to tell me what I don't know? And how do you think this data can help me? So those are the selling points that there are a lot of challenges happen.
Thank you.
Therefore, you need a sponsorship, right? That's what I'm saying. You need a sponsorship. You need the 2 layers to say, the purpose of this organization is to have a center of excellence for analytics. And if that is being purposefully budgeted, communicated across 3 to 4 levels, then you get a support. But if it is just an experimentation at the top, after 6 months, if they, let's say if the desired results are not achieved, they might say, okay, let's not do it.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kartik sir. Rest questions can be taken offline, but thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Please stay back, and I'll request Mr. Atul from Trident to please come forward and felicitate him for his talk.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Can we have a round of applause for him?